Good evening, everybody. Just gonna get situated here real quick. I had to change the link again. Frickin' YouTube. You put it in one way and then it insists on streaming software. And I said, no, I wanted webcam. Whatever. That's that. That's that. And that's that. Here we go again. All right, guys. To refresh your memory, we all know about the federal investigation, right? We all know what they found. We all know what you've all seen, who purchased what, the invoice, but we're going to keep it simple for right now. We're going to stick with the bear in the room, the gorilla in the room, whatever you want to call it. We're going to start with Howard Taylor and his associates, partners, and what we have that proves what just happened in the last week or so. We remember a few months ago, Kentucky Gaming Commission gave him a review. For some reason, he didn't understand what was going on. But anyway, he applied for a license in Kentucky. Long story short, he was told at the end he was going to be denied. He had the option to withdraw his application, which he did. He thought he was going to be cute and, I'm going to reapply, whatever. Kentucky was going to deny him. But for some reason, they pulled up. And instead of denying him, which would have expedited what's been happening lately, they gave him the option of withdrawing his application. So he went berserk when the USTA posted that, which actually they shouldn't have. But we all knew what was coming. So the question has been, with everything that you've seen, which is evidence obtained through years of work by some really good investigators, special agents, members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, federal government, prosecutors, some horsemen behind it as well, some powerful people in the industry who have said, we're fed up with it. We want this shit to end, right? You would think that this would be something that everybody in the game could get on board with together. No, not in harness racing. Why? Well, I'm going to tell you why. And the proof is out there right now. Because not only are there criminals in the industry who are abusing animals by what they're injecting into them and defrauding everybody and their brother by altering the outcome of legalized gambling events, races, in case you can't figure it out for yourself, by using these drugs of every possible, from pain to breathing to bleeding to the blood build, you name it. Just doing unthinkable things to these animals to make them go faster. And if you haven't noticed, also designer drugs made by Seth Fishman, as requested by the owners, will pay more if you can make it untestable, undetectable. No problem. This is a crime syndicate, okay? Now, with all of this that we know, all of this that I've shown you that the industry sure as shit didn't want to show you, right? But they were aware of it last year. We got a little bit of traction this year. But I thought, as well as others, this should have been a slam dunk. Easy, right? And I'm going to show you by their own rules, specific commissions, why not only are the people who compete in the game criminal, so are the people who govern the game. Even though we've all said it, the proof is there now. So I want to start with last week, the state of Delaware and their director, commissioner, Delaware Harness Racing Commission, Delaware Horse Racing Commission, was the first guy to say, I'm done. Howard Taylor applied for a license. He was denied his license. And you've all seen it if you read it, how clearly he stated that by what was found by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and with the evidence that was entered into the trials cannot be disputed. Here's the orders, the purchases, the filled orders, who paid for it. You'd think it would be simple, but not when you got lawyers involved, especially when one of the owners is a lawyer. So they're playing the lawyer game. Well, you can't prove it. Well, I didn't know about it. Oh, the best one. my first wife, who is no longer with us, paid for it. I was unaware. Oh, we ever talked to, oh, she ever said, oh, how much omeprazole? Well, that's all bullshit. Okay. And that's what you do. Denial is the best way to defend yourself. Make them prove it. Well, we're going to do that. So anyway, Delaware finally said no. And it's clearly stated in his suspension. It's not even a suspension. Denial of his license. And he may reapply in 10 years. This guy's not messing around. So now we think, got him. Hours later, Canada answers with a reciprocal suspension indefinitely to match Delaware. But what they screwed up is when they first posted it, it said reciprocal to the USTA. Whoever did it, we don't know, whatever. But it was really reciprocal to the Delaware license denial. So I don't want to go into that too deep because I want to go over the states after I read something to you that has never been read to anyone. We all know BB3, and I've done that purposely because everyone recognizes that. It's like it's like Coca-Cola. You mention Coca-Cola, even if you don't drink it, you know what it is, right? BB3 is the devil's juice in harness racing, but it's not the only one. Imagine if these guys were also using a painkiller on top of that, that is, according to the research and this gentleman's letter that I'm going to read, 1,000 times more powerful than morphine. So you got horses that don't stop and are basically numb. Because I don't even know how to make a comparison to that. Morphine is supposed to take away a lot of pain, broken bone pain. What do they give you when you break a bone? You go in the hospital before surgery, whatever. Morphine. Then you click the thingy, right? Imagine something we'll even say, let's imagine that they added one too many zeros on this in this letter. 100 times more powerful than morphine. You're not going to feel anything. So let me first read the letter. I want to keep this so everybody understands. And I've said this when I was doing original live streams last year about stuff like this. Please pay attention because it affects any of you out there who are honest and getting screwed by these people who are allowed to continue to race. Now, this letter is from Sean Richards. He's now the Director of Intelligence and Strategy with Horse Racing Integrity and Welfare Unit. But his position was different during the investigation. I will read you the letter as he wrote it. As lead investigator and subsequent FBI supervisory special agent overseeing the investigation of Seth Fishman for the distribution of PEDs within the horse racing industry, I have direct knowledge of all investigative aspects and the trial that followed, including detailed information on the products Fishman sold. Number one guy. Given my experience, I understood that BB3 was a synthetic form of epigen, referred to as a mimetic, that could only be detected in the horse's blood for approximately 4 hours after administration, and in a horse's urine for approximately 27 hours after administration. Through the investigation, I learned of a product referred to as the Fishman frozen pain shot. Now, we alluded to this before. A synthetic form of morphine, approximately 1,000 times more potent than standard morphine, of which a 10 cc dosage was to be administered approximately 1 hour before race time. Furthermore, it was revealed that the Fishman frozen pain shot was in fact being billed and invoiced as, pay attention here, EQ 1 at 5. We talked about this many times before, okay? During the investigation, I obtained samples of both BB3 and the Fishman frozen pain shot, EQ 1 at 5, as evidence and sent both items to the Hong Kong Jockey Club Racing Laboratory for analysis. The results greatly contributing to my understanding of the substances. Analysis revealed that both were novel substances and resulted in 2 published articles detailing that BB3 was a synthetic form of epigen. I showed you all that, mimetic peptide in the Wiley report. And resulted in and the Fishman frozen pain shot, EQ1AT5, was a synthetic form of morphine, DMT-DALDA. That's also available. You can see it. I'll post links. I've attached both research articles for your review. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. This was mailed out to a bunch of people involved in the investigations as well as the commissions. Now, my question we'll start simply. It is just as devastating to have purchased the frozen pain shot, as it was BB3. Just as damning, just as guilty. All right, let's imagine, the one is cocaine, the other's heroin, whatever. People went away for this stuff. I don't think anybody has been specifically fined, suspended, or denied a license because of this stuff. We have one because of BB3. And then all of a sudden it hit the brakes. So now, where does that lead us to? Well, let's give an example of someone who used this. Someone who is fighting what is happening to him in Delaware, now in Canada. I'll read the specifics. As well as his partners. But I want to start with first a different owner, okay? And I'm just going to give an example that they purchased this stuff and we're using it. It comes up in the bills regularly between the years of 2012 and 2019. People are saying, I said, that I don't want to go into, they're still, or no. Here's just what I have in front of me. We can take care of the rest later, but we shouldn't need any more evidence, is my point, right? Eric Prevost, who we all know is a well-known owner, has a pretty decent stable. I believe he's got horses with, does he have horses with Nick DeVita? I believe so. But here's a horse billed on 8/27/18 named Border Control A. And you can clearly see the purchases for BB3, right? He's still racing. I just wanted to use him as an example. Now, back to Mr. Taylor. I'm picking out this one horse again. This name came up a lot the last time because if you remember when I showed you how Equistology billed their clients, and in this instance, Mr. Taylor and his partners, it comes up. Remember I showed you the breakdowns with his partners, the percentages. Account 705, something I brought up regularly. You have Deja Vu Blue, Howard Taylor, his partners, Lazaro and Castellino. And also Dylan Davis comes up in this too. Now, how do you connect the dots here? Where they are clearly guilty of purchasing and paying for this stuff, because when you pay for it and you have the canceled checks and the accounting and bookkeeping for it, where the payments came from, where the bills were sent, remember, directly to his office in Philadelphia by Equistology, which was set aside for only VIP approved clients, right? But he disputes that now. But back on 3/31/18, not only were they purchasing BB3, but here's this ridiculous painkiller for Deja Vu Blue, EQ 1 at 5. You've seen this before. We just never looked close enough because I didn't have the confirmation by the lead investigative agent, the main guy of the entire investigation into Seth Fishman and all these pieces of garbage that went to prison for doing what they did, and everybody else that's under scrutiny and on all these invoices. He was billed $165. I guess it's per dose. This is just the one horse. So and you would multiply it. The total for this 1 month came out to $842.83. We also have the check like we had before right here. No different than what I've shown you before. So, I mean, imagine, I don't know if it's 10 cc's, if that's a dose. That sounds like 4 starts to me, right? Could be 3 starts. But again, not only are we implicating, beyond the shadow of a doubt, if we want to use that terminology, this horse at that time was 50% by Mr. Taylor, 25% by Mr. Lazaro, and 25% by Mr. Castellino. Go even further. 9/30/17, EQ 105. Another invoice, Deja Vu Blue. And just to double check the owners on this horse, with the United States Trotting Association. One thing, we knock the USTA for what they don't do, what they say they want to do, which they shouldn't be the police department, but they want to be because we know why. There's people involved in an executive board that control everything that happens. I'm going to get into that in a second. But here you have, anybody can look this up on Pathway. From 9/21/2017 to 7/28/2018, Mr. Lazaro, same Mr. Taylor, same Mr. Castellino, and same Mr. Davis. What do these people all have in common right now? They're all still competing. They're all still racing, right? They're all still in good standing with the United States Trotting Association. I was sent other examples. Of course, Neymarovich. And I really didn't want to muddy this up. I want to keep it pretty, again, straightforward so people just understand. This is how on 3/2/2012, EQ 1 at 5 was purchased for this horse, Maravich. Had to cancel the payment. And all you got to do is look at his unrelated to this. All you have to do is look at who owned the horse on the date 3/2/2012. So in 2012, he was owned by Dylan P. Davis. Seems like his regular customer, right? Now, again, you would think that it's a layup, that the organizations, commissions, governing bodies will do their job. Well, that's not the case, and we all know that now. So I want to start at where this started last week and read to you what's happened and what's not happened, and the rules by just a few select commissions and states, their own rules, charters, and bylaws, clearly stated in their posted rules, printed rules, what have you, handbooks. This is what we have after what happened when he was denied Howard Taylor. We're going to stick with Howard Taylor now. His license by the state of Delaware. Standard Canada, which came later because they changed this since Friday. And we were like, well, what's going on with the USTA? And I'm talking to my people. I'm like, why hasn't the USTA? And they're, well, you know, and I'm like, I said, bullshit. They posted it before. Well, it's the weekend. I said, the last time McGillis, the USTA, posted it on a Saturday when they reciprocated with Canada, right? I said, nope, they're not going to do it because Russell Williams, you and whatever it is that you are at the USTA, other than being an excellent registry, are useless at taking down the criminals or anybody that's taking advantage of the industry, the horses, the bettors, the people, the grooms, the decent people in harness racing that you're allowing to stick it up, those people, these people, to stick it up their rear ends, which could only lead me to you're either a coward or you're complicit. I'm not sure. I think you have too much to lose. And like I said, that breeding farm that you were born into, the man who found that is doing backflips in his grave. But Howard Taylor, Standard of Canada, reciprocal suspension with AGCO. They finally corrected it. And they go on to indefinitely full suspension that they do an automatic once upon receiving the AGCO suspension, they reciprocate immediately. Then the original AGCO, which originally said reciprocal with USTA, now says reciprocal suspension with Delaware harness. The gentleman, I believe his name is Mr. Shuey, you, the head of the Delaware Horse Racing Commission, you deserve a statue because you were the first person to see it for what it is, which is clear as day in front of you, all of us. And you did your due diligence. You did the research. You had attorneys look into this, that you were protected, that everything that we put out there is legit, not made up, actually exhibits from the federal government, and you crushed them. Excellent job. Again, reciprocal with the suspension in Delaware. Because without Delaware, we're not having this conversation tonight. This brings up Indiana. A lot of horsemen have contacted me that, what are you talking about, Petrelli? And this was Saturday, and I thought it would be, like, maybe they're holding off, maybe they're not, maybe there's going to be a press release. I don't know. But why would AGCO act on something that didn't happen? So Saturday comes and goes, no scratches. He races in Indiana. He raced somewhere else, forget. But Indiana's a big deal right now because we all know the story of what happened with another gentleman out there who investigated him and then suddenly was fired, Mr. Linkmeyer, if you remember correctly, right? A guy that was trying to do the job and then, nope, we're not going to have any of that, right? So he races and they're asking me, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. So I got a call while I was in the city Sunday afternoon, somebody close to the person out there who said that the director of the commission out there said that once they contacted him, Mike Smith, the new director who took over for, or what's her face, that left, I forget her name, but that he was unaware and hadn't done his research yet. He was unaware of all of this. I don't think there's anybody in harness racing, first of all, in North America, if not other countries around the world, that are not aware of what's happened in the last 5 years here in the United States, starting with the Fishman trials and everybody else and the investigation by the FBI. So now I start to research. I get hold of this gentleman's cell phone number. And that day, I called him from Central Park when I was with the carriage horses. And the phone started blowing up within an hour of him calling the people who did all this work. So there's been, I can't tell you what, yes, good, bad, or indifferent, but like I read to him, and I called him again Monday as a reminder, and I read this to him word for word, Indiana's own reciprocity rule, which is 71 IAC 5-5-15 reciprocity, section 15. Now, tell me what's supposed to happen. He's denied a license in Delaware, and he's banned from Canada indefinitely, pursuant to what's happening in Delaware in reciprocity. Their own rules. They didn't wait. It may not have taken minutes for Canada to act. While the USTA, as of right now, at almost 8 o'clock on Tuesday, has done nothing. Section 15, if a person is suspended, expelled, or ruled off, or if his or her license is revoked, or his or her application for a license has been denied, or he or she is under any other current penalty pursuant to rules of the racing authority of any other state, or country, or we could say Delaware, or we could even say Canada, right? Of the Gaming Commission, such person shall stand suspended, expelled, ruled off, or denied a license at all tracks and satellite facilities operating under the jurisdiction of the Commission until the ruling has been withdrawn by the originating authority. This is Indiana, their own freaking rules. But allegedly, their own director didn't know. They didn't know. It's kind of like when they were talking about Mr. Taylor was saying, well, if you didn't buy it, what do you mean? You paid for it? I didn't know. My wife, who's no longer here to testify, she paid the bills. I didn't know. All I knew was I paid for a lot of money for omeprazole. That's why Kentucky got mad, because he mocked them. I don't need to breed the reciprocity in Canada, but you saw what happened. And now my favorite one. I'm going to do one more, and I'll also read the, I have the USTA rule too. New York State Gaming Commission, automatic recognition. Pursuant to Section 912 of the Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, the New York State Gaming Commission automatically enforces penalties imposed by other jurisdictions. Now, the last time I checked, automatically means we'll just use Canada. Yo, dude, Canada suspended Taylor indefinitely. Oh, and it says because Delaware denied him a license. So automatically means we're not going to do anything, right? Shoving it up your rear ends again. Because anybody that's racing in Yonkers, or granted by God, the privilege to race at Yonkers, you don't stand a chance. Or anywhere else that he races in New York State, which we know he can't race at Vernon and Tioga, but let's say he's got stakes colts in anywhere else. You're up against this stuff. Good luck while you do nothing. That's what drives me nuts. Not only are the commissions doing nothing, not only are the governing bodies doing nothing, you're doing nothing. And more people have attacked me over exposing this, which means, are you just that scared, or are you that stupid? I'm not sure anymore. And here's my favorite. Russell Williams, who I mailed this to today. I emailed this to him. I included a couple other people, including Dave Briggs from, Honest Racing Update, and said, hey, maybe you should try reporting some facts. I included everything. Section 1.04. This is the United States Trotting Association's rule on reciprocity. Reciprocity with Standardbred Canada. Clear. That's what it says. Over here, we got SC, means Standardbred Canada. I didn't include the rest of the page, but it was actually taken off Standardbred Canada's webpage. Other provisions of these rules. Notwithstanding, residents of Canada who are members in good standing and or duly licensed by Standard Canada as owners, trainers, drivers, or officials shall not be required to obtain membership or driver. So we act in reciprocity that way, right? The purpose and intent of this rule is to accomplish reciprocity as to memberships and licenses issued by Standard Canada. That's the incoming. You know, similar to like, well, I guess it didn't work with Fred Bourgault. I don't want to go there. I have to find, oh. I think I left it in the other room. But my point is, it works both directions. USTA is to act in reciprocity the same way as AGCO and Standard Canada do with the anything in the United States of America, including the United States Trolley Association. So what does this all mean? What it means is the industry is a complete failure from top to bottom. The industry, if they do not act on this as per their own rules, is by admission just as guilty, and the lack of action is just as guilty as the guy who ordered the drugs, the guy who accepted shipment of the drugs, the guy who paid for the drugs, the guy who injected the drugs into the horse. Because you know, and this is where again, complacency is just literally in black and white. He's been denied by one state and suspended indefinitely by a country. It clearly states in all the rules that without hesitation, and also states in New York State specifically, it's automatic. So what is it? Automatic, or whatever we want to do. State of New York, United States Charting Association, Russell Williams, your very, what do we want to call the executive board? The executive board of the United States Charting Association reflects exactly where the problem is in harness racing. The board of directors in harness racing reflects ridiculously, insanely reflects where the problems are in harness racing, because you got not only a self-governing, incompetent self-governing, self-sufficing self-governing industry in sport, the people that we're trying to rid the industry of, as per their own actions, it's not because we don't like them or there's a vendetta. It's because what you've been doing is illegal and you've been cheating everybody. They're also competing in the industry. It's a bit of a conflict of interest. The entire organization of the United States Trotting Association and even some of the commissions. But this time it's not, you usually see that in the form of presiding judges and associate judges, the guys at the racetrack working for the states that are the former ex-trainers, ex-drivers. I don't know if there's any ex-owners. But my point again is that's usually where they land. You don't see them up in the Capitol. But what is it that's happening? Why aren't these states moving? And I'm going to finish this off with, why aren't you people furious? I posted the picture the other day of Howard Taylor, where in 2017, I think it was 2017 when he won the Hambo, big cheesy smile. Great. You know what? Happy for the guy. At that time, nobody knew really what was not, we didn't know this, at least, unless you were working for him, right? Kind of like when I'll never forget when the night that Tony Zukov called me about that, because if Howard Taylor wasn't worried about this, Howard Taylor wouldn't have been crying to a presiding judge in New York State who still has a job with New York State Gaming right now as a judge. Even after that phone call, and they all heard it. I sent it everywhere. Everybody had it. That's okay. And after all this, Howard Taylor still has his license in the state of New York, right? But I thought about it, and I said this to someone earlier. I said, he held that up, and we can't make the case. But knowing everything we know now, how many times has he gotten behind every one of you, I said, shoved it right up your rear end with his ding-a-ling, and had his other two hands in his pockets, in your pockets, I'm sorry, taking your money, you know, so to speak. It's a metaphor for he's taking an illegal advantage over you by using this kind of stuff. And so, or everyone else, I'm not just him, but everyone else who nobody's even gotten to yet, or maybe they're not even looking at yet. But while he's giving it to you like this, he's taking your money and you're not doing a damn thing about it. And I don't know what to say to that other than you're weak. And if you're broke, that's your fault. If there's ever been a time to step up and say enough, I don't know why people haven't flown to Columbus and aren't storming the fortress and saying, are you kidding me? It's right here. Why is he still allowed to be a member in good standing? Any state that has automatic reciprocity or reciprocity with the governing commissions and bodies and goes without saying, state of New York. Why hasn't anybody called screaming? Indiana. Horsemen were calling me, well, you're wrong. He's still racing there. And my thing is, did you go and start yelling? Did you go talk to at least the judges, which aren't going to get you anywhere, but get you heard? Did you try calling to the commission? Did you go to the racetrack? Are you aware of this? And are you aware of the Indiana rule on reciprocity? How is he still racing? Those guys that if you were racing in overnights against him and he's taking your money, why aren't you furious? I don't understand. And to add insult to injury, you've got their Night of Champions this weekend. Well, I'm sure he has horses in, and I'm sure that's got a lot to do with this. Because these cowards in these commissions are worried about lawsuits. How about just do your goddamn job? Your job is like a police officer, all right? Or a code enforcement officer. Some people call them building inspectors, when in fact, they're code enforcement officers. You are given the rule book, right? Your job is to uphold the rules in the rule book. If you are if you're on the board with a commission, if you are employed by a commission and racing, that is your job. No different than a police officer. Your job is to uphold the rule of law as written, not your interpretation of it, or not like, oh, you pulled over your buddy and he said, your inspection's no good. You just go take care of it. Or in this case, if you're this guy's buddy, yeah, well, I know we're racing for $2.5 million this weekend. And I know we're supposed to act in reciprocation. And I know you're not going to like us if we actually do our job, but just go ahead and race. What are they going to do about it? Because that's really all it is. That's what it comes down to is, what is anybody going to do about it? Well, since none of you will do anything about it, there are people that are doing something about it. I'm not alone in this. Like I said, I'm the messenger. And when I was sent this letter by this lead agent, I was stunned. This is like the guy. And I've never had a clear from the investigation itself and the research and what was said into on the record at these trials about the EQ1 at 5, which in my opinion might even be more dangerous than BB3. BB3, we know, has caused issues with the heart and the vessels surrounding it. Not to mention the fact that it, when used and administered by these guys, and you could tell why who's using it. I've told someone that is the CEO of a racetrack that this certain individual, watch how he warms up his horses, and sure enough, the next week horse dropped dead in the race at the half, and it was blown out aorta. But when you take away nature's defense and warning mechanism, which is pain, it's even worse. The safety of the horse, well-being. That horse goes down because he can't feel nothing. Your driver, the other drivers, the other horses. And my point here is they don't friggin' care. I promised these people I wasn't going to curse tonight. Almost did. They don't care. They don't care about the animals. They don't care about the industry. They don't care about the drivers, the trainers, the grooms, anybody except themselves and them profiting off of this at any expense with nobody to challenge them, because here we are. The commissions right now have these individuals dead to rights in the site where they say locked on, fire the missile, done, never to be seen again. The USTA is the most useless organization in all this, because they do have the one, what I kept saying to the people today, well, you know what? We got to, maybe we'll go to this state and watch this one. Blah, blah, blah. No. Who has the power to put your lights out? Even though they can't bring you to a hearing, and they've used this before. Like I said, without a membership, other than what, a few states, you're not able to obtain a license in these states to compete, right? New Jersey, you need one. New York, need one. Pennsylvania, you need one. Most of these big tracks or big states with the big races and the big purses, you have to have a membership in good standing. Am I right? Couple, like Maine, look who they got racing up there, or was racing up there. The guy that tried to end his wife was allowed to race up there. And then what happened? The USTA gave him his license back. Now, it's been a long-standing thing that people said that, well, if you've ever had a felony, the USTA wipes you out forever. You can't get a USTA membership after you've been charged with, found guilty of a felony. True whether or not, but it seems as though everything is open to, again, interpretation of their own rules. There are people right now, some who I've known for decades, who have been given no warning for much less than what these people and others are guilty of, clearly guilty of, are still allowed to frickin' race, and nobody does a thing about it. I know guys from the original FBI sting, where one guy, an idiot, who I know very well, and I tell him that all the time, but was busted for race fixing, took $250 to go dead in a race. That's it. He went to federal prison for 3 months, I believe. That was in the mid-90s. And he hasn't been able to obtain a USTA membership since. You're out. You're done. You know why? Because you're a nobody. And the proof of that is Walter Case Jr. got his membership back. There's another gentleman who back in the mid-'80s was fixing races over in Pocono. Now, what I'm not saying and condoning what they're doing that or saying that it wasn't wrong. Yes, it was dead wrong. It's just as bad, all this stuff. But when you look at the level of impact or the amount that they profited, it's the one time, they'll say to me about these guys, it's the one time they caught him. I'm like, well, look at this shit. Look, it's the one time they caught him. These guys are buying this stuff by the box, by the pallet, if you remember. Lisa Gianelli saying they were sending stuff out to customers by the pallet, that they needed a forklift outside her house